was around about 7 or 8 years old. I had an experience of going to bed and going to sleep and drifting out of a window.
Right.
And from drifting out of the window, I was then in a stadium with two beings either side of me, and looking down on a football-sized pitch of white light, and in the centre of that football pitch was a ship with people coming on and off that ship.
Right. How you managed to get out of the house?
It was floating out of the window.
Right. So was the window open, do you recall, or do you?
No, it was closed.
So do you feel you went through the window?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And would you say that was you were in a dream state or in a conscious state? What?
Reflecting on it, it was half dreaming and half realising that I felt floating.
Right. So this experience was so vivid, you've remembered it for your whole life.
It was a dream that has stayed with me and is as visual now as when I experienced it.
Okay. Might you be able to describe these beings?
No, okay. I cannot. Yeah, all I can say is that they were either side of me, and they wanted me to look down.
Did you have any sense of where you were? Had you been taken away from your house?
Yes, yeah, I'd been taken away from my house. This place was, I'd never experienced anything.
Right. Tell me about your first conscious recollection in the morning. What happened then?
My mum came into the room, and I was on a windowsill, which is probably 4 or 5 feet, 4.5 feet tall, and I was on the window ledge, hanging on to the window.
Right.
And my mum said, "What are you doing up there?" And
right.
I explained what I'd just, I'd experienced.
So when you're clinging onto the window, are you saying that your feet were not on the actual?
They were on the windowsill.
All right.
My feet were on the windowsill.
Right. So you were quite high up.
Yeah.
There for a small child.
Yeah.
Right. And had you climbed onto that windowsill before, in previous to that?
No.
Right. So you're on the windowsill, which is 4.5 feet up, and your feet are on there as well, and your hands. So you're completely on the window. So was it a normal sort of 7-8 inch windowsill sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you so what were you sort of like crouched down on it?
The small top window was open, and I had my hand just outside holding on to the outside of the window on the frame.
And did you feel that you'd been outside when you realised you were in this position on the windowsill? Or do you?
No.
Right, okay, so you weren't sure what had happened?
No.
And have you got any recollection of how you may have got on that windowsill then?
No. No, none at all.
Okay.
It was only the disturbance of my mum walking into my bed, opening the door, walking into the bedroom, that I'd realised I was there.
Right. Something else that you told me about, not long after that you noticed something. Just tell us about that.
2 or 3 days later, I was playing in my bedroom when I just, something in me, I directly put my hand to my throat and felt this object in my throat.
Right.
Nothing, there was no mark there or anything, or it wasn't sore or anything, but it was just something in me that just went straight to it.
Right.
And I felt this sharp object within, under the skin.
Now, any marks on the skin at the time at all?
No.
Nothing at
None
all?
at all.
Okay. And how long after this incident on the windowsill did you notice it? Would you say?
I'd say 2 or 3 days
2
later.
or 3 days. Okay, so you've obviously lived with it all your life, this tiny lump in your neck, which I've actually felt earlier on today. And so you must have an idea for the size and the shape and the consistency of it, whether it's hard or soft or pliable or whatever.
I'd say it's triangular in shape. I can feel at least 3 points. And I'd say it's probably 2 millimeters from top to bottom, I'd say.
Right, so you think it's like a piece of Dairy cheese sort of thing, sort of shape?
Yeah.
Right, and it's got a thickness of a few millimeters, you think?
A couple of mil, yeah.
And do you have the feeling that it's What's its hardness like?
I've squeezed it as hard as I can, and then I can. The nerves obviously round it that's hurt.
Right.
When I squeeze it as hard as I can, because I'm seeing if that will crumble or.
Right.
But it's stayed the same.
Right, and so you think it's quite hard substance?
It's a very hard substance.
Right. Stone, metal, plastic, rubber, a bone. Would you be able to guess hazard?
I'd say metal or stone.
And now, do you have any sense of whether it's fixed or floating about of its own accord?
It's fixed.
You think it's fixed?
It's fixed.
So do you have a feeling that it's maybe attached?
Yeah, I would imagine it's attached to...
Okay. Our next question is, have you ever had a medical examination or any... You've not?
No, I've not.
Okay, and no x-rays or anything like that?
No.
It would be quite interesting to do that. Do you describe this experience as a UFO experience then?
Yeah.
Have you done any research into it? Have you read anyone else's account who claimed to have been taken through things?
I read Whitley Strieber's book of Communion and how he could float, out the window, and regarding that as well, when I read Communion, I was living at Rendlesham, and my daughter, who was only about 3 years old then, came up tottered over to me as I was, and that book has got an embossed face of an alien on the front.
Yeah.
And she came up and pointed at the picture and said, "Daddy, he comes in my room at night," and that knocked me back, for 6.
Really?
Yeah.
So you would like it removed then?
I would, yeah.
Right. And do you think it's performing any function? Do you have a feel for that?
In the last 4 or 5 years, come to the realisation, why have I got that?
Right.
Am I being tracked? Or
Roger Lear, he reckons that they're information gathering devices. So in other words, maybe your mood, your heart rate, your physical state, your mental state, if that's connected to your central nervous system, could be sending that information elsewhere.
We are currently seeking to help Mark have this object surgically removed and analysed. If anyone knows a good surgeon, please let us know. It might be something mundane, but if we don't examine it, we'll never know for sure. In the rest of today's show, I will be looking at lone gunman incidents which have occurred in the UK and pointing out that I don't think these events happened as they are portrayed in our docile mainstream media. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Alright, now some of these incidents that we've had in the UK with Derrick Bird, Thomas Hamilton, Michael Ryan, where people have gone into a town and shot people for no apparent reason, these also fracture society, or at least the communities where they occurred. Now I've put a question mark on there because I actually don't think any of these guys were lone gunmen. And I would recommend this book for starters. This is it's Neil Sanders' book. You may have seen Neil Sanders on my TV show. It's called Your Thoughts Are Not Your Own. And this book spells out MK Ultra techniques, techniques of hypnosis, psychotronics, all of the different techniques that intelligence agencies have used to control people's minds and make them do things completely against their will. All right? And I suspect there's some of that being going on with these cases. Michael Ryan, people who witnessed Michael Ryan on his killing spree in 1987 said that he had a complete blank expression on his face. And his mother tried to stop him when he was halfway through his killing spree of killing 16 people, and he just shot his mother in cold blood. And then later on, after he'd barricaded himself into a school, he was expressing concern about his mother. It was as if he'd come out of a trance. Thomas Hamilton, this is the Dunblane Massacre. I recommend this book by Sandra Utley. This book will get you close to the truth about what happened in Dunblane. Hamilton allegedly killed 16 children and then a school teacher and then himself. Now, if you read this book and the evidence that it uncovers, you'll realise that Hamilton didn't kill himself, right? And once you understand that, you realise that his killer has never been named or uncovered, right? Now, you would have thought if someone had killed someone in the act of trying to kill children, they would have been made a hero, but we've never heard who that person is. So it's my opinion that Hamilton was in some way steered to do what he did, because Hamilton ran boys' clubs and he had a lot of videos and photographs of semi-naked boys that he was sharing with a lot of police officers in Central Scotland Police. And he was regularly writing letters to two MPs and some of the chiefs of police in central Scotland. So he had a lot of dirt on a lot of people. So it's possible that there are people who wanted to get rid of him. I think he was manipulated somehow. Maybe mind control, I don't know. But there's huge question marks over what happened at that school. And of course, we haven't got all of the records of what happened, because they actually, some of the evidence that was in the inquiry, there was a secrecy order put on it for 100 years. So there's a whole shelf of evidence that no one's seen that's been locked away for 100 years. And that includes some of the autopsy reports. And I believe part of Hamilton's autopsy reports, which shows that he had 2 fatal gunshot wounds. So he couldn't possibly have killed himself. So there's massive question mark over the Thomas Hamilton incident. Now, one of these cases that I've done quite a lot of digging on is the next one. This is Derrick Bird, 2010, taxi driver who allegedly one morning wakes up, glorious sunny day, 2nd of June, kills his twin brother, kills his solicitor, and then goes and randomly kills 10 more people and allegedly kills himself. Now, back in 2010 when this happened, what I did was I just looked at his list of victims to see if any of them stood out as perhaps having a motive. And one of them I did find a potential motive, right? This is Kevin Commons, who was a solicitor.